everything that felt good about them not that long ago, including myself. I literally came on this show and said, this team is going to win the Western Conference. They still can if a certain head coach who is acting a bit obtuse about this team and his personnel doesn't turn this thing around and right his ship. There are problems with the Warriors. It starts with their personnel, and it starts with their head coach who is not playing the right players. I'm going to explain what I mean with all that, break it all down, and try to squeeze in some positivity. I don't know how that's possible, but again, 3-game losing streak, not cool. The Warriors fall to 6-5. We're going to break that down in terms of why and what's next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. It's that simple. If you had bet on the Niners today, the money line, you would have got an extra $150. It's that simple. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild, where I'm very active nowadays. And it's a fun platform. You should come check out what myself and a lot of other users are doing there. It's a fun scene, certainly less toxic. One thing that was toxic, though, is this Warriors game tonight. I want to start off the show by dialing in to the post-game press conference where Steve Kerr took the podium, as he does after every game, and expressed how he felt about the team's third straight loss, this time 116-110 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Here is Coach Steve Kerr.
Steve, there were a number of things, obviously, that you didn't like, but what are the things that most concern you? I mean, I know fouling probably was one of those things, but what are the things that most concerned you?
I'm actually not overly concerned, to be honest with you. I think, the season is filled with...
What? I mean, I don't pause these sound bites that often right in the middle of them. You're not overly concerned. Let's hope for the sake of argument that is coach speak. That is him being the media savant he is, because you should be concerned. You just lost 3 straight games to 3 of the bigger teams in the NBA. Every single concern about their out in the landscape, whether it's media, whether it's fans, whoever's talking about it, the entire concern for this team was their size, whether or not they're big enough to compete in the modern NBA against teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves that have 2 7-footers in their starting lineup, that also have Naz Reid coming out, who shoots 43% from deep, or a team like the Nuggets, who have a front court of Jokic and Aaron Gordon, who can burn you there. A team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have another pair of 7-footers in their front court with Mobley and Jared Allen. I hope I got his name right. How can you not be concerned? You're getting killed by the exact teams everyone was saying was going to beat your team. You're literally feeding into every nightmare in Dub Nation's minds about your roster, that you're too small. And what's worst is, instead of playing the right personnel to combat that, you stick with your small ball lineups. That is the definition of being obtuse, when you sit there and act like everything's fine when it's not. Let's listen to the rest of Coach Steve Kerr.
Ups and downs, and we're in a little bit of a spell right now, but it's not like we were the world's greatest team when we were 6-2, and we're not the world's worst team losing the last 3. It's just this is part of the season, and I think we just played back to back 2 great defensive teams that throttled us, and we need to figure out some things offensively, and I'm confident that we will.
So here's the thing. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about the Golden State Warriors offense. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about how this Warriors team needs someone to help out Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry, by the way, had another fantastic night. Stephen Curry is the Golden State Warriors dynasty. Stephen Curry is the Tom Brady in any metaphor involving the Warriors and the New England Patriots. I bring that up because the Warriors postgame show tonight was doing next level butt smooching when it comes to Steve Kerr, talking about how he can get whatever amount of money he wants in his next contract. I'm going to give Joe Lacob some credit here because there is a very good reason why Steve Kerr is a lame duck coach right now. He's been given the keys to this organization. His son runs the Santa Cruz team. He's in the final year of his contract without an extension for very good reason. In the same line of logic that Klay Thompson is in the final year of his contract. If the team brass was super happy with him, he would not be in a lame duck year, folks. All right? He has the trust of the team, but they're also looking extra closely because this is a Steve Kerr team. All right? Any decisions that come down from Mike Dunleavy Jr. in terms of roster construction, that's Steve Kerr. He's got the final say. This is his ship. He is the president and GM and general manager. He's running this show. Make no mistake about it. All right? So when we talk about who's responsible for the Warriors dynasty and Warriors greatness, in the same vein that the New England Patriots fiefdom right now is under attack because Tom Brady left, and suddenly the genius Bill Belichick is not being revered as such. Steve Kerr's never done it without Curry. All right? And sorry, I'm not fully sold on Steve Kerr as a head coach. I've come into this year with a lot of skepticism after last season, and to hear an attribution like that where he's not overly concerned, he's using language like this is like we weren't the best team in the NBA when we were 6-2. Why not? Where's the confidence in your team? What the hell? What kind of language was that? Yeah, you're right. You're not the worst in the NBA right now, but you're far from being the best if you're going to continue employing a lineup that was incredible 2 years ago. A lot happens in 2 years. Times change in 2 years. Look at a lot of other great organizations and teams who 2 years after winning a title, half the rosters are gone because people age, things change. And what particularly disturbed me about that attribution from Steve Kerr is that he brings up the offense, right? And we're going back full circle there now because a lot of people have complaints about the Warriors in terms of their struggles being tied into the team not having a second surefire scorer, right? If you watch this show regularly, if you consider yourself an everydayer, you heard us talking about this during the offseason when they made the trade, sending Jordan Poole to the Wizards, getting back Chris Paul. We were saying this time and time and again. Who is the second scorer on this team, right? Because Klay Thompson is the de facto second scorer, but Klay Thompson, we're seeing what's going on with him right now. We'll talk about him in a second. If you're a Klay Thompson diehard fan who never wants to hear anything negative about him, maybe don't watch because I don't know how you can spin what he's doing right now into a positive. But to hear a lack of concern from Steve Kerr and Stephen Curry he's a legend. He's one of the all-time greats. Again, my entire emotional connection to all this is I want to see him go on to Mount Rushmore. I want to see him up there with Jordan, with Kareem, with whoever is the fourth player out on the metaphorical statue or mountaintop with faces carved in. I want Steph up there. He wins a fifth title. He's up there. Case closed. So that's my greedy self-interest in all this. I want the Warriors to win another title because Stephen Curry is that good. And I'm hearing a lot of people talk about the team's offense needing to be turned around, right? And we just heard Steve Kerr mention the offense. I'm hearing a lot of people say the Warriors need that second scorer. I don't know if they do. I don't know if that's the problem. What I'm seeing being the issue is largely not the offensive side of the ball. It's the defensive side of the ball. The Warriors tonight outscored 9 other teams on the NBA docket tonight in terms of total points. The Warriors scored 110 points. All right? That's not bad. The problem is they gave up 116. Defense creates offense, all right? And the Warriors defensively are struggling, and they're struggling for a lot of reasons. And first and foremost is points in the paint. I think that's a stat we can all agree on is their absolute kryptonite right now. They're doing okay with rebounding, but other teams are getting inside and scoring at will. What was entering tonight's game? The Minnesota Timberwolves were tied for third in the NBA in terms of points in the paint. Rightfully so. They got Karl Anthony Towns. They got Rudy Gobert. They got Naz Reid. And even their supporting cast is long and big. Whether you're talking about Jaden McDaniels, whether you're talking about Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Kyle Anderson, these are big, long dudes. And they're scoring at will inside on the Warriors. The Warriors got killed tonight in points in the paint, 62-38. The Warriors are dead last in the NBA in points given up inside the paint. So how do you solve that issue? How do you solve a problem where you're getting absolutely murdered inside? It's not more offense. It's making an adjustment on the defensive side. Teams have won championships with one superstar player as the focal point offensively. It's been done, and it's been done a lot. When we come back, I'm going to read to you some teams that have pulled it off. I'm not worried about a second score for Steph. Would it be nice? Hell yeah. But the problem is Kerr is playing all the wrong people. Anyone who accuses me of being emotional, why don't you take a look at Steve Kerr? He's using his emotions for every lineup he's employing out there. And they've got problems because of it. They should not be losing 3 games in a row. And I'll explain what the other teams are out there that have pulled off having one superstar surrounded by a cast of above average to star type players, none of them being a second level all-star type definitive scorer. And the reason why I'm going to bring this up is because I don't think the Warriors should be concerned about that. They have bigger issues at play, and they're resolvable issues if Steve Kerr actually applies just a little ingenuity to his rotations and lineups. I'm going to explain what I mean in just a moment after I give some love to our first sponsor tonight, which is Ibotta. And look, the holidays are here right now, which is a perfect time for you to be trying to save some money. And that's where Ibotta really comes into play. It's all about getting you cash back when you're shopping, right? How does a free Thanksgiving sound? This year, Ibotta is here to give you cash back and help make sure your Thanksgiving table is complete, because who wants turkey without gravy, right? I mean, turkey's great, but the best part is all the sides. And with Ibotta, you can make sure you get the whole family's favorite side dishes and all the turkey while getting yourself cash back in the process. Starting November 1st for the 4th year in a row, Ibotta is giving 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. Do it. Why not get money while you're shopping, right? Simple process. Download the Ibotta app now and use the code LOCKED, LOCKED, to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving dinner starting 2 weeks ago on November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED, LOCKED. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store, and use the code LOCKED.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, Greg Silver is going to join me tomorrow to recap the disaster that has been the last 3 games, and maybe he'll give me some pushback because for you folks that are unfamiliar, Greg Silver's dad is Mike Silver. They are family friends with the Kerr family. And so if anyone is going to offer some pushback and offer a different perspective, so this is not interpreted as a Kerr hating zone, it'll be Greg Silver. He's going to join me tomorrow, so make sure you tune into that. And you can follow me on Threads, where I'm very active discussing the Golden State Warriors. The handle's super easy, same as Instagram, @DogWild. So here are some other teams before we talk about like tonight's game specifically and where Kerr has completely screwed the pooch. The Warriors, again, they came into this season with their roster construction. It was no secret, right? Like, they gave up Jordan Poole, the team's second leading scorer last year. Well, actually, he was technically third, but Klay Thompson is not approaching the stats that he had last year for scoring. Klay Thompson last year actually was fantastic offensively. Real fast this year, Klay's numbers, especially when it comes to scoring, he's still the second leading scorer on the team, but he's averaging 16.1 points per game as your number 2 scorer. Now, the question is that I'm presenting, can the Warriors get away with having Steph being your purely dominant player, right? And having no one else as a clear-cut number 2. And it's been done before, right? It has been done. So in terms of the Warriors roster and any panic buttons you're hitting in terms of whether or not you think the Warriors are doomed because Steph has no sidekick offensively, I'm here to tell you, no, the Warriors can still pull it off. You can have a megastar like Steph and surround him with a lot of competent, solid players, especially if they're playing good defense. Steph tonight, by the way, and again, you're never going to blame him for the Warriors being on the wrong side of the win column. He finished 11 of 25 shooting. Good, not great. 5 of 13 from beyond the arc. Good, not great. That 5 3-pointers, by the way, extends Steph's streak, his record-breaking streak of 4 or more 3-pointers made per game. He hasn't missed that once all year. That is absolutely incredible. That's now 11 games in a row and counting, a record that he owns and is continuing to extend. My God, Stephen Curry, you are incredible. He missed 1 free throw tonight. He was 11 for 12 from the charity stripe. Also had 5 rebounds, had 3 assists, and he was a -4 in the plus-minus, but I don't know if you could blame him for that. He scored 38 points in tonight's game. The dude was just absolutely incredible. There are other teams that have pulled it off, though, where you have one megastar with a supporting cast of really good players, but none of them are necessarily an outstanding second scoring option, right? Look at the Nuggets last year. Now, some people might push back and say Jamal Murray is an excellent player. He is. But I wouldn't call him an elite scorer. His career scoring average is in the 16-point range. He's never made an all-star game. Maybe he would have if he was healthy, but being injury prone is part of the argument here when you're having these kind of discussions. If you can't stay on the court, that's a problem. And Jamal Murray is injured again. He has a hamstring injury that's going to reportedly keep him out at least a month, meaning he's probably not going to make the all-star team this year. And if you replace Jamal Murray with another player like him on that Nuggets team last year, I think they still win the championship. I'm comfortable saying that. Jokic is that good. The 2019 Raptors, you had Kawhi Leonard surrounded by guys like Pascal Siakam. Good, but they're not elite scorers. Pascal Siakam that year, I think, averaged, 16.9 points per game in that ballpark? The Warriors have guys like that who can score. The 2014 Spurs had no one, I think, averaging above 16 points a game. Very defensive-oriented, very motion-like with their offense, similar to the Warriors. The 2011 Mavericks are an excellent example of that. You had Dirk Nowitzki leading the show, and he just had a cast of very good players, right? He had the Jason Kidds, the Jason Terrys, the Tyser Chandlers, right? Sean Marion. You had the 2005 Spurs, right? That was Tim Duncan's team mostly. He was the leading scorer that year, but there was no lethal, all-star level second scorer on that team. 2004 Pistons, who were incredibly defensive oriented. Chauncey Billups was the guy on that team. No one who was secondary to him. I'm guessing Rip Hamilton would be your second option. There are a few players on the Warriors who compete at that level. Michael Jordan's Bulls. I know you can make the argument Scottie Pippen, Hall of Famer, one of the top 50 greatest players ever. But in 3 of those 6 Bulls runs, of those 6 championships, Pippen averaged below 20 points a game. That was Jordan's show. Jordan was carrying that team offensively. Everyone else marched in line and followed. And one of the best examples, I think, is the 1994 Rockets. The 1995 version had Clyde Drexler helping Hakeem Olajuwon out. But in 94, it was Hakeem and a supporting cast. It was Hakeem's show. And I bring all that up because I do believe, even though the Warriors don't have that quote-unquote awesome second scorer on their team, and Klay Thompson is failing at that job. Clearly he's the guy that's supposed to be doing this. But the Warriors can still pull it off with the team they have now. Again, tonight, 110 points. There were 9 teams in the NBA scoring less than them, including the Phoenix Suns, who had just 99 against the Thunder. So I'm not panicking in terms of the offense being an issue. It's the defense and it's the personnel that Steve Kerr is employing that is a massively huge concern. And in just a moment, I'm going to explain who those players are that should be playing and the players that are playing currently that Kerr is leaning on, who's the direct result of this 3-game losing streak right now. I'm going to explain what I mean by that in just a moment. First, got to give some love to our second sponsor tonight, and that is the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you bet on the San Francisco 49ers today, this morning, you were stoked. The Niners pulled off a huge win. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. What that means is place $5 on any clear-cut favorite. Don't bet on the spread. Bet on the money line. Win that $5, win whatever you get back, even if the odds are awful. Because as long as you win that $5 money line bet, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Spreads, player props, OUs, futures, you name it, they've got it. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, one final segment here of Locked On Warriors. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads @DogWild. So what went wrong in this game tonight? Well, for starters, Klay Thompson did not have a good game. There was a moment, and look, momentum is a very real thing. I have a debate with people a lot when it comes to the concept of momentum. It's not immeasurable. It's not something you could actually write down in terms of numbers, in terms of having any empirical data substantiating it. It is a very psychological thing, but it's also very real. In 2016, when the Warriors were up 3-1 against the Cavaliers in the NBA Finals, they were on track to cement that 73-win season with their second straight championship. This little thing called momentum derailed them. It came in the form of Draymond Green being ridiculously suspended. I cannot get over the fact that the NBA they're not even pretending anymore that they don't like Draymond Green and that there's a very clear-cut bias against him. And in 2016, they suspended him. And all the momentum that the Warriors had, being up 3-1 in that series, a chance to close out the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 5 at home, was wiped out with that suspension. And all it took was that one game, and Cleveland took the momentum, and it was over. Why do I bring that up? Because tonight, at the 8-minute 25 mark of the second quarter, the Golden State Warriors were winning this game, 38-32, in case you weren't paying attention early on. And they stayed close in this game from beginning to end. They were never fully out of it. In fact, with less than a minute to play, they cut the lead to 4, thanks to seeing Brandon Podziemski out there, a player that I really wish we'd see more of. And side note, by the way, in case you're wondering why Brandon Podziemski looks like he has a black eye, he looks like Rocky Balboa out there. It's because just a day earlier, was that right? When him and Trace Jackson Davis were playing in Santa Cruz, he got hit in the face by a player named Chance Comanche of the Stockton Kings. I don't know if it was intentional or accidental, but he got cold cocked. And I don't even know if he got cold cocked. I don't know if it was an elbow. I didn't get details there. But the black eyes because of, again, that individual, Chester Comanche of the Stockton Kings, the G League affiliate of the Sacramento Kings. Point is, why are we not seeing Brandon Podziemski out there more? Why are we not seeing Trace Jackson Davis out there more? And going back to the momentum thing, Klay Thompson at the 8:25 mark of the second quarter, with the Warriors leading 38-32, with the Warriors having all the momentum, they had a chance to start pulling away in this game. Klay, instead of going with the rhythm of the offense, instead of waiting for the ball to come to him, instead of relying on his own personal strength, being a catch-and-shoot player, decided to dribble the ball all the way up the court, acting like a point guard, and decided to just huck up an 18-footer that was contested, that was not easy, and he forced it, right? It was short, which has been, the story of Klay this year, and last year for that matter, from March on. A lot of his shots are just coming up short now. And this 18-footer that he forced missed, obviously. Minnesota goes quickly on a 6-0 run. That run turns into 18-6, and that run turned into the Timberwolves never looking back. Sometimes all it takes is one play like that. Klay Thompson never used to hoist ridiculously dumb shots like that before. And maybe it's part frustration because nothing seems to be going down for him anymore. Maybe he's just not the same player he was. I have no idea what's going on with Klay. But for anyone out there still defending him, I don't blame you because I love him personally. I'm never going to forget everything he's ever done for this organization. But in the same way that, at a certain point when I was a kid and the Niners were the dynasty that I was growing up watching, I had to say goodbye to Joe Montana at a certain point. It wasn't easy, but every athlete gets old. Every athlete at a certain point starts to regress. Unless you're Stephen Curry, who's just freaking awesome. So Klay Thompson tonight played 33 minutes, 16 seconds. He was 5 for 16 from the field. He was 3 for 10 from beyond the arc. He did make his 3 free throw attempts. I really wish if Klay was going to evolve his game, which he has to if he wants to stay in this league until his late 30s, like he said, he's going to have to turn into a player who can get to the line more. 3 free throw attempts. I think he had 2 the last game. That's got to get up. And if you can't do it, so be it, right? I mean, I think the last thing we want to see is Klay Thompson forcing his game, and that's not going to work. But Klay was the second leading scorer for the Warriors tonight with 16. Andrew Wiggins is continuing one of, if not the worst starts in his career. I might have to actually do some research to see if that's a statement that could be stated objectively. But clearly the problem with this Warriors team are those two individuals. These are 2 players who they've relied on for offense. They've relied on for defense. That's the part that's really hurting the most. They're not even playing good defense now. They're getting blown by. They're making dumb plays. Wiggins only had 1 turnover tonight. Same with Klay. So at least that department got a little better. But they're not even holding their own defensively. And this is where Steve Kerr, when he makes a comment like that, like he's not worried. Well, when are you going to get worried? I mean, is there a line? Is there a line of demarcation for when the panic button should start getting hit? Is it December? Is it 20 games? Are we going to ever know what the number is? Andrew Wiggins was similarly bad tonight. He played 25 minutes and change, 3 of 7 from the field. His 3-point shooting has just vanished, just gone, like doesn't even exist anymore. He was 0 for 2 tonight. He had 1 trip to the free throw line, was 0 for 2 there. I do have to give Klay Thompson credit for the 4-point play. He did have 1 4-point play, which is awesome. But I just remember that right now. But Wiggins, 6 points tonight. A team worst minus 13 and plus minus. Only had 4 rebounds. That's usually been one stat that he's been able to contribute a little more. So the question is, like, if you're Steve Kerr, and this is where I'm critical of him, is at what point are you going to stop coaching and making these lineup decisions based on emotion? Because if you're looking at it objectively, meaning on paper, meaning observing with your own eyeballs what's going on in the game in front of you, Klay and Wiggins are not helping. They are a detriment for the most part. Now, Klay at least has had some games this year where the plus minus he's been solid. And tonight was an example of where it wasn't necessarily him. It was more so his lineup, his rotation was staggered a lot with the second unit. The second unit played decent tonight. Not great, but they played decent. Kevon Looney got into foul trouble very early in this game. Looney was another player who was awful tonight. In a game where you needed size against that front court of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Kevon Looney got into foul trouble early, played just 19 minutes in this game, grabbed 6 rebounds, had just 2 points, was a minus 12. All right? So Dario Saric was the player that Kerr tapped to take a lot of those minutes. And Saric was one of the only players tonight who played decent ball, shot 50% from the field. Not a good 3-point shooter. He had 4 3-point attempts. He was wide open for 3 of them, missed all 3. Interestingly enough, the one where he was somewhat contested was the 1 3-pointer he made. They need Dario Saric to hit his 3-pointers. But nonetheless, he was one of the only positives tonight. He did grab 10 rebounds, finished the game with 11 points, was a +2 in the plus minus, which, again, echoes a theme that we've been hearing all season. Your second unit, your bench players are the ones that are saving the Warriors, keeping them in these games. And at a certain point, Steve Kerr you have to start playing these guys. You have to start playing Jonathan Kuminga. Now, Kuminga did not have a good shooting night tonight. Kuminga played 23 minutes, so he dipped into Wiggins' minutes a little bit tonight. It was encouraging to see it. Kuminga was in the game late for the Warriors tonight. That's also encouraging to see. Kuminga is currently the team's, I believe, 4th leading scorer behind Steph, Klay, and Chris Paul. And Chris Paul had a horrible game too. But Saric, again, with the 11 points. Kuminga, the one thing he's doing, which at least is earning minutes out there is he's getting to the line. He's at least drawing fouls from the opposition. He's second on the team in free throw attempts behind Steph and Curry, and it's not even close. It's Steph, it's Kuminga, and it's everyone else. Chris Paul was getting to the line with some regularity earlier in the season. That number has dipped a bit in terms of free throw attempts. He's struggling offensively as well, but at least Kuminga is getting to the line. He had 7 free throw attempts tonight, made 6 of them. His three-point shot is struggling, just like pretty much everyone else right now. At least he got to double-digit scoring. Was a 4th leading scorer in the game tonight with 10 points. Didn't have the rebounding numbers we've been hoping for. His rebounding numbers on the year have not been what we're hoping for. Part of that, though, with Kuminga is if you watch the game and you watch the Warriors defensively, Kuminga's oftentimes tasked with defending the other team's perimeter player. They're one of their fastest players, if not the fastest player. So it's hard to grab boards when you're out in the perimeter when the other team is putting up shots. But he's just averaging 3 rebounds a game this season, which, again, that number does need to go up. I will criticize Kuminga for that, but he's getting to the line. He's averaging 12.3 points per game. He's the team's 4th leading scorer. And he's averaging 20 minutes a game. Why not boost that up to 25, right? We've seen this year. We've seen in Kuminga's young career so far. The kid needs to warm up. Kid needs some time, all right? He sometimes has slow starts. Let's see him play 25 minutes. And then what about Gary? Why wasn't Gary Payne II out there tonight? Why is Gary Payne II? I know he's been battling an illness, and I attributed that as the reason for him having a minute reduction in last night's game. But why did Gary Payne II only play 13 minutes tonight? Okay, Anthony Edwards in the 4th quarter was torching the Golden State Warriors. In the 4th quarter of tonight's game, Anthony Edwards, I felt like every single time they had the ball was scoring. His 4th quarter numbers, Anthony Edwards, 13 points in that 4th quarter, 4 for 9 from the field. All but one of his misses were 3-point shots. That is what you have Gary Payne II for. We saw Steve Kerr employ Gary Payne II to defend Malik Monk in the Kings game. It worked because GP2 is one of the best defenders in this entire game. Why was he not playing tonight at the end? Why are you stubbornly insisting on Wiggins and Clay? You're now 6-5, coach. 3-game losing streak. Why are we not seeing Trace Jackson Davis? I mean, you drafted this kid. Luckily, he fell to the Warriors at number 57. And he's a legit talent. The kid can play. He can even handle the ball. He has post moves. Maybe he'll develop shot blocking skills. He played 1 minute tonight. 1. And I don't understand the why of that. I don't understand why Brandon Pajemski is not getting a real run. I love this kid. Brandon Pajemski brings energy. Brandon Pajemski can rebound. Brandon Pajemski never gives up on a play. And the only reason why the Warriors cut the lead tonight to 4 was because of Brandon Pajemski, who in a minute of play was 3 for 5 from the field, hit 2 3-pointers, was a +6, scored 8 points. The point is, I need more minutes from Moses Moody. Why did Moses Moody, a player who just time and again came into this game, I believe, with a +14 net rating on the year, yet Moses Moody gets just 13 minutes at a horrible shooting night, all right? This was not a good night for him, but similar to Jonathan Kuminga, sometimes players need a full game. We've seen Stephen Curry have games where he's scoreless in the first half, and all of a sudden you look up at the end of the game, he's got like 38 points. Sometimes players need a full game to warm up or to get over whatever issue is affecting them. But Steve Kerr's got to start playing the players who actually are producing. This is maddening. I want to finish tonight's show with letting folks know, and I'm sorry for not getting to the chat lately, but I want to actually present something to you folks real fast after this, what I'm going to tell you real fast, and that has to do with an internship. If you want to be an intern for Locked On Warriors. But I want to read to you real fast, entering tonight's game, which 5-man lineups are the most effective in terms of net rating, meaning which Warriors 5-man groups are most successful. Excuse me. The most effective unit for the Warriors right now, with a net rating of +16, is Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Dario Saric, Gary Payton II, and Jonathan Kuminga. All right. We're seeing Chris Paul plenty. We're seeing Klay Thompson plenty. But Dario Saric, who got a good run tonight, but there are games where we're seeing him for like 12 minutes. Okay. I don't understand the why of that. Kuminga, Gary Payton II. We've already covered that. There are nights where they're not getting a run. The Warriors' second highest net rating lineup of 5 players. When you're listing all 5, you can look at this objectively, right? Steph, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, a little surprising there, Kevon Looney, and Moses Moody. And again, this is where I look at Moody and think to myself, why is he only playing 13 minutes and change? The team's third highest 5-man lineup in terms of plus minus, Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Trace Jackson Davis, and Brandon Pajemski. The point is, play the kids. Play the biggest strength of this Warriors team this year is depth. Please utilize it. I've gone way too long. Folks, if you want to be an intern for Locked On Warriors, there is a class called Journalism 202 at Cuesta College in San Luis Obispo. You don't have to live in SLO County, but if you register for that class, Journalism 202, you can be an intern with Locked On Warriors. I'll go into the details on that on a future show. We went late today. I sincerely apologize. I also apologize for not getting to the chat. I'm seeing all your comments, and I wish I could debate and because I know some of you aren't agreeing with me, and that's fine. Okay, this is all sports. It's all fun. But regardless, I really hope we start seeing some other players on this team getting a real run. I'm talking 25 plus minutes. I want Gary Payton II getting real minutes. I want Kuminga. I want Moody. I want Pajemski getting 10 minutes, 15. Why not give Trace Jackson Davis 10, 15 minutes? Why is Usman Garuba a potential non-existent human being? The lady who was on the airplane that clip that went viral in Orlando, that person's not real, or whatever she said. Is Usman Garuba real? I've never once seen him play. Dude's 6'8". I had someone DM me the other day telling me that Garuba looked great in Santa Cruz. Kevin Dan is going to come on the show as well soon because I got to pick his brain about the Santa Cruz scene and Guy Santos. Anyways, I've gone long. Losing streaks make me cranky. Thanks for putting up with all this. Love you. I mean that, all of you. And we'll be back at this tomorrow with Greg Silver. Have a great night, everyone. Bye-bye.